I don't know about you, but over the past few days I've sensed a change in the wind. After Tommy Robinson's arrest and jailing last week, we've seen thousands of protesters descend onto Downing Street voicing their opposition, chanting his name, blocking traffic and causing that part of London to come to a standstill. Protests were also reported in countries across Europe, in Australia, Canada and the United States. While the mainstream media predictably smeared these people with the usual empty insults we're all bored with, even the Daily Mail called the Downing Street demonstrators far right, which just goes to show exactly where their loyalties lie, despite them claiming to be the voice of the working class of Britain, of course. Yeah, right. These labels just don't stick anymore, boys. The petition I linked to in my previous video, which at the time had barely 30,000 signatures, is now almost at 500,000. Wow, this country is just swarming with Nazis, it seems. They're everywhere, around every street corner. How will we ever cope? And just to be clear, that number would be so much higher if the media were able to actually report fully on this event, because at the moment the only people who really know about it are those of us who get our information from alternative sources online. If this was printed in a national newspaper, you better believe the level of anger would be even bigger than it is now. Speaking of the YouTube crowd, you can really tell how big this issue is judging by just how many people have taken the time to talk about Tommy, and furthermore, just how many views these videos are getting. I mean, for God's sake, my video reached 100,000 views in a couple of days, and I usually get decent viewing figures, but the speed of growth here really illustrates what the consciousness of the people is right now. How did Tommy Robinson, a guy who has had his character assassinated time and time again by our media and politicians, get to this level of popularity? How did a man who was framed as nothing more than a knuckle-dragging football hooligan when he first burst on the scene in the late 2000s garner so much public sympathy? The truth is, the mask is slipping. The smoke and mirror show the establishment has put on for the general public is fast losing its appeal. When Tommy Robinson first became a public figure, when he was marching through the streets with people wearing England shirts and waving the England flag, screaming about Muslim rape gangs, it was easy back then for the media to do a job on him. It was even easier for the public to believe what the media said. But time is the great revealer. Over the last number of years, the British people have been subjected to the very things Tommy was screaming about all those years ago. Terrorism, rape gangs, Sharia courts, no-go zones, all of those things that he was labelled as a crank for talking about have turned out to be true. A media narrative has absolutely no chance of holding up against personal life experiences. And now that millions of normal Brits across the nation have experienced these terrible things, the media is growing ever more redundant. Whatever they print will be treated with scrutiny. Whatever their talking heads say on TV will be scoffed at and disbelieved almost immediately. To put it simply, the people aren't fooled by this shit anymore. And as their own worldview has changed with experience, so has their perception of Tommy Robinson as a man. No longer do they see him as a villain, they see him as a hero. And when heroes get mistreated, disrespected and put in danger, people don't like it. The state is the villain now. The British government is complicit in the damage being done to this country on a daily basis. Every single one of these MPs in the Houses of Parliament are willfully ignoring what's happening. All they want to do is engage in mutual masturbation with each other, have a few shouting matches between Labour and the Conservatives, wax lyrical about diversity being our strength, and live comfortable, warm, cosy lives. And I don't blame them for wanting that, by the way. We all want to be secure and safe. We all want to live our lives in peace and quiet. But these people were elected to speak for the people of this nation, who right now don't have a hope in hell of having a life like that. Westminster is only concerned about maintaining the status quo. They don't want anything to change. They want to keep the public bored and disinterested, but most of all preoccupied by meaningless things, while a great cancer grows in Britain from within. Unfortunately, they've made a mistake. They didn't imagine that a man who they'd done such a professional smear job on in Tommy Robinson being able to shake off that stigma and win the support of millions. They never thought it would be possible that the British public would dare to not take every word from the BBC as gospel, that they'd actually start thinking for themselves and seeing through the forgery that was presented to them. Oh yes, this country is filled with angry, angry people. The simmering beneath the surface is approaching boiling point. Years upon years upon years of neglect and disrespect has left a mark. The longer this Tommy Robinson debacle goes on for, the bigger this movement will get. Just a reminder, Tommy's safety is still of paramount importance, and there are links below that will allow you to show your support and help him. The petition, as I mentioned, his website where you can donate financially, and the contact details of the Home Office where you should absolutely flood Sajid Javid's inbox with your disapproval, shall we say. I've sent a few emails already. Of course I'll never hear back, but then again I imagine the servers at his office are under a bit of strain right now, so keep it up. The truth is, whether people like Tommy Robinson or not, whether they approve of some of his tactics, he's seen as a representative of the repressed working class. These people almost live vicariously through him. He has the spine and the balls to put himself in danger every day of his life in order to expose the crimes that we all know are happening, but we aren't allowed to speak of. Millions of working class people have seen what's happened to their towns and cities, their neighbourhoods and their communities, and they're looking for radical change. He's a figure they can get behind, someone who can break their conditioning and encourage them to fight their own corner once more. In the past, the working class would stick it to the elites as they saw them by voting for the Labour Party, but now, I have to tell you, the Labour Party doesn't give a shit about the white working class of this nation. All the issues the working class face are supported by Labour. Mass immigration, multiculturalism, Islamic appeasement, demographic replacement, diversity quotas, all things that have destroyed the working class. The Labour Party aren't for you anymore. Who they are for is the self-satisfied Guardian readers who pat themselves on the back for calling someone racist over Facebook while pretending to like grime music. They're for the Owen Joneses of this world, who couldn't be more detached from reality if he tried, but he has no time to look at himself in the mirror because he's too busy rimming Corbyn's arse and pretending to be a revolutionary. You can't be a revolutionary when you hold the safest opinions around, sunshine. Yet with all this being said, working class towns still vote for Labour en masse at every election and act so counterproductive to their own interests, it's hard not to wonder if they're all secret sadomasochists. And I come from a working class background, the frustration is real. But then who else can they vote for? The Conservatives? Pfft. They're so terrified of the Labour Party and the left that they're trying to be them. Capitulating at any sign of opposition, terrified of being called racist, so they'll do nothing about immigration, they'll bend over backwards for the Windrush hysteria, all the while doing nothing about the thousands of white girls being raped, and will lock up the man who's trying to. Make no mistake, this act against Tommy Robinson is an attack on the white working class of Britain. It's a warning to you all. Get back in your place, plebs, otherwise look what happens. Don't you dare speak of the horrors you're witnessing every day in Rotherham, Telford, Rochdale, Newcastle, Oxford, insert town name here. Don't concern yourself with the police and local councillors covering it all up and doing a bit of raping themselves. No. Hush, hush. Don't worry about your kids being blown up at a concert. Don't bat an eye at how nobody in your street can speak English. Diversity is our strength, bigots. The working class of this country need to recognise their own power. Without you, this place is done for. It's finished. And it's high time the powers that be understood this. Years of being talked down to, disrespected, taken for granted and smeared, that's all going to come to a head. If the government doesn't mean to kill Tommy Robinson, they at least aren't doing much to save him. He's a political prisoner, a warning shot to anyone else who is thinking of getting out of line. You have to meet this head on and let them know that you won't tolerate it anymore. Get involved with online campaigns like the ones I've linked. Go to marches like the ones we've seen over the weekend. I know I'm planning on attending some in the future as well. I think another great idea is to print free Tommy flyers and leaflets and distribute them around London and other cities as much as possible. Don't let this event just blow over, because that's what's happened with every town infected by rape gangs, every terrorist attack, every crime that has been thrust upon us, and it can't continue. Let's personalise this for a second. At the end of the day, Tommy Robinson is a normal man. He has a family. He has goals and ambitions, strengths and weaknesses, hopes and fears, and he is being made an example of to threaten you. Your lives matter. The things you want to achieve mean something. You should feel safe in your own nation. You should feel protected. You should feel at home. You should feel comfortable enough to raise a family. But those things aren't the reality right now. This battle is just getting started. I hope you're willing and able. Thank you all very much for watching once again, everyone. Please, if you can, share this video and every other video talking about this situation. It really is so serious. And whether you agree with Tommy Robinson or not, whether you follow him or not, I don't agree with everything he does. This could happen to any one of us, and it will happen more and more if we don't do something about this, if we don't make enough noise. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so in a few ways. The first way is by PayPal. The link is also down below. Thank you to everyone who's been so generous. Or you can become a patron of mine. $5 a month or more would get your name at the end of every single one of my videos as a credit, like these gorgeous, beautiful bigots right here. So many Nazis, oh, I can hardly cope. Thank you all so much, as always. Alright guys, I'll see you later in the week. Adios.